Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Max Porterfield, President and CEO of Callinex Mines, which explores some of Canada's most prolific base and precious metals districts. He's got many years of experience studying financial markets as well. So first of all, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, before we go into precious metals, I have to ask, even some of the top bankers like Jamie Dimon are warning of a recession on our doorsteps with yield curve inversion in both Canada and the United States, as well as the real possibility of negative interest rates in the coming year or so. Do you think we're in for a major recession? Some would say we've been technically in one since 2008, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do believe we are heading into a recession, or maybe potentially already are in a recession. I think policymakers, particularly North America right now, are doing everything to stave off a recession going into an election cycle because they want to get reelected. So they're going to do everything to drive the economy forward to make sure they get reelected. But that aside, I think you are seeing that in the commodity space as well, are kind of showing that. You look at copper prices where they are right now, as well as the rest of the base metal space, it is definitely pointing that way.
Yeah, that's been a concern of many of our viewers, and we've examined gold, silver, and copper many times on this channel, but something we haven't gone into before to a great degree is zinc. Can you explain to our audience what makes zinc so great and how you believe zinc would hold up in, say, a potential financial crisis as a wealth insurance or as well as an investment?
Well, I think, for example, the way we position Callinex is really a diversified portfolio of base and precious metals overall, but we do have a significant exposure to zinc within our portfolio. I think both copper and zinc are really the building blocks of the global economy. You can't even wake up in the morning with your alarm going off without having either of those two commodities and metals, in your life. And so they're very, very key. They often refer to copper as Dr. Copper. So with copper prices where they are right now, down to almost a 2-year low, that's a strong indicator of a slowing global economy. But again, I think longer term, you really need to have base metals and precious metals within your portfolio. And real assets overall are going to perform, decently in any type of scenario like that that's inflationary, as you mentioned, with the negative real interest rates.
And I have to ask, what's the relationship between base metals such as zinc and the trade war and tariffs, if any?
Yeah, so Dave, on the topic of zinc, zinc was performing rather strongly early last year until the notion of the trade war hit. Zinc prices in going into late 2016 or roughly around, late 2015, roughly around 70 cents a pound. And then there was a strong move from those depressed levels up to $1.60 a pound that we saw that was achieved by Q1 of last year. And then when the murmurings of the trade wars starting in early 2018, that had a significant impact on global zinc prices. Zinc prices went from $1.60 a pound down to $1 a pound very quickly within about 3.5 months' time. And again, the key there is, like I mentioned before, it's really one of the building blocks for the global economy. So with the tariffs and the trade wars, there's that uncertainty that's going to create a slowing global economy. Slowing global economy will lead to reduced consumption of those base metals.
So one of the things that we talk about a lot here at our media is scarcity and how much scarcity plays into value. We see that a lot in the precious metals markets. We see that in a lot of markets. And I have to ask if zinc is in any way at a shortage. We've heard about the LME inventories going down, and we also know that a few large miners control a lion's share of global supply. Are there any constraints?
Yeah, so right now you mentioned the LME inventories being near historic lows. I think there's probably less than a week of supply for global demand right now in LME inventories. I think Shanghai inventories are similar to that as well, and that's going to be for the refined metal. So right now in the zinc space in particular, you do have constraints with the smelting capacity, which is what they take, the concentrate that's created from the mine supply. And they goes into a smelter that refines it into the refined metal that's then consumed and used to galvanize steel around the world predominantly. So with that said, right now you have had steady mine supply coming online because higher prices Obviously, we'll incentivize new production to come online. But I think right now at $1.10 a pound zinc, which is where we are today, I'm looking out in the next 2 years. I think zinc will be stable around $1.10 to $1.20 a pound. And there was recent research that was done by Wood Mackenzie that essentially if zinc would go down 6%, would go down to about $1, which would be about an 8 or 9% decrease today's spot price for zinc, you'd essentially make around 6% of global production uneconomic. And if it further slid to around 90 cents a pound, 20% of the mine supply out there would be uneconomic essentially, which would lead to cutbacks in output. So it is a very tight market with the above ground inventories in LME being at historical lows. You've got the smelting capacity issue, as well as the mine supply, while it is healthy, can very quickly change on any kind of moves in the underlying commodity price environment.
It's very interesting. And, we really enjoy talking to entrepreneurs that have great ideas and have great companies. And of course, we always say to our audience, do your own due diligence. We don't give investment advice, but we bring forward a lot of interesting ideas that everyone should examine. And with that said, can you explain to our audience what Callinex Mines is and what sets it apart from other mining companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, I'm really passionate about Callinex. I love talking about the company. Essentially, this is what I do every day and get excited about coming to the office every day. That being said, Callinex is a mineral exploration company that we're focused in 3 jurisdictions across Canada within close proximity to infrastructure. The priority for exploration over the past several years has been in the Bathurst camp of New Brunswick. We've got 2 projects in Ash Creek, Superjack, and then we recently also acquired the Headway project there, so there'll be 3 projects. And we also successfully doubled the resource there early last year and subsequently put out a PEA at $1.25 zinc price assumptions when zinc was in at $1.50, $1.60 a pound. And we've just completed some work out there, and we'll be advancing through exploration in the coming weeks and drilling some targets that we've generated to increase the scale and the size of the deposits, and also look to discover new deposits in that camp. We've also got operations in Flin Flon, Manitoba, which is where Hudbay's flagship operations have been really for the majority of the history of that company. But in that instance, there's an immediate need for new ore to be fed to those processing facilities in Flin Flon, with their flagship 777 mine due to shut down by Q2 22 or thereabouts. And then we also have a sizable zinc gold resource in Newfoundland in the Buckens camp. So when we put together the portfolio, it was really to focus on tier 1 jurisdictions within Canada that are close proximity infrastructure, that had exceptional exploration upside. And that's really why we've been exploring, Flin Flon, Bathurst, and Lead Buckens here in not too distant future as well.
Yeah, well, you definitely have your hands in a lot of places, which is great. And, it's interesting you mentioned Flin Flon, Manitoba. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I know that Flin Flon is a really big place when it comes to mining. It's a huge market there. I have to ask, what opportunities does mining zinc provide for those interested in investing in your company? And if one buys shares now, how could they profit later?
Yeah, I think, commodity prices aside, everyone likes to see higher price movements, which will have an impact on the companies that are operating and can benefit from those higher prices. But the biggest wealth creator in the entire business for mining is in exploration, because you essentially come from something that has no value to a virgin piece of ground or an area that doesn't have any resources there. And then to discover an economic deposit, you can have immediate wealth creation. So if you look at those types of scenarios, which is what we're looking to do at Callinex, that's really where you can make money in this business, irrespective of what the kind of global macroeconomic scenario is, recession, no recession. You're finding something that's going to be economic with tremendous value in the ground, starting with such a low basis, how you can create a lot of wealth for yourself and your shareholders. So the focus within the portfolio being in Flin Flon, for example, is that there's an immediate need for that new ore to be discovered. The town's been, for giving you an idea, has been mining consistently for over 95 years across over 32 mines. And Flin Flon won't have a mine in a couple years here if a new discovery isn't made. So being able to make a discovery in Flin Flon, for example, the same can be said with Bathurst or in Buckens, is a way to make a tremendous amount of wealth creation for yourself and your shareholders It's very similar to the biotech field, for example, where you're in exploration. It's similar in the biotech, like I mentioned, from biotech's really research and development heavy. Same thing is for exploration. We go out, we do different types of testing to generate targets in an exploration thesis, and then we test that thesis instead of clinical trials with a drill bit and drilling to see if the targets are correct and what kind of fruit they bear. So that's really the most exciting part of the industry. Really excited to get up and going and drilling in Bathurst in the coming weeks, and in the not too distant future in Flin Flon as well, to make new discoveries out there and create wealth for our shareholders.
Right. And you've gone into many of your projects. I have to ask, what do you plan to do with them, or with the ones you're more focused on, in order to de-risk them, extract the value, and deploy an exit strategy for your shareholders later on?
Yeah, so in Bathurst, we had a nice starting point with the maiden preliminary economic assessment that we put out on the Nash Creek and Superjack projects early last year. Since that time, we've done a district scale IP survey along this 20-kilometer trend that we control at Nash Creek. And we've identified and generated roughly between 15 to 20 targets between Nash Creek and Superjack. And so when we acquired Nash Creek initially, we knew that we needed to grow the resource, which we did very quickly. I mentioned we doubled the resource and then put out that maiden PA. The PA, or preliminary economic assessment, was just trying to get a gauge and show the investor community what are the potential economics around Nash Creek as it stood today after increasing the resource base. And then what we're going to do moving forward in the coming weeks with the upcoming drilling campaign that we'll be announcing in the not too distant future here, is to really build upon that success and make new discoveries to build out the scale and size of the potential operation out in New Brunswick at our properties there. Now, if you move over to Flin Flon, for example, Flin Flon is a place that's been very near and dear to my heart. I'm very, very passionate about Flin Flon. I believe in the future of Flin Flon, and our team is very excited about the potential moving forward in Flin Flon's future, particularly with the need for a new mine to be discovered there. Now, we had a lot of success in 2016 with a big drill hole that we had drilled at that time. We had hit 10.3 meters of 13.1% zinc equivalent. But after we hit that intercept, we weren't able to replicate that. And one of the key tools for vectoring in the Flin Flon greenstone belt has been electromagnetics, which essentially looks for conductive sources within the ground. But what we found with our mineralization that we encountered at Pine Bay, which is a project in Flin Flon, was that the mineralization is very, very lowly conductive. So if you have mineralization that's high grade but very lowly conductive, EM is probably not going to be the best tool to try to vector towards that mineralization. So after using IP, or induced polarization surveys out in New Brunswick, and had a tremendous amount of success utilizing one that had already been done at Nash Creek, we decided to deploy that technology in Flin Flon, which has not been utilized on a readily basis, if ever, in the camp's history, because it's kind of like, if it's not broken, why fix it? So EM is a great tool in looking at a purite-rich VMS deposit that's highly conductive. Everything that we hit at Pine Bay has been lowly conductive and pyrite hosted. IP does a great job at vectoring towards pyrite, and that's why we used this IP survey earlier this year, as well as we're doing physical rock property testing on the mineralization to understand what are the different rock properties of different rock units that we've actually intersected in drilling, both from mineralized and unmineralized sections, and then to correlate all that data to generate new targets, which we're looking to announce in the near future and get drilling those targets in Flin Flon, because a discovery in Flin Flon would have a big impact on the community as well as their shareholders moving forward.
And I mean, that's one of the things I looked at going into this was the fact that you guys have a long history, and that's important to a lot of people because you're not one of those companies that just came out of nowhere in the last year and got pumped with money. And that's something I want to kind of go into, because obviously a lot of investors look at market capitalization and look at the fluctuation in the market capitalization over the years. Your market capitalization is very low, and 2.6 million Canadian dollars of your market cap is in cash. What opportunities do you feel your low market cap provides potential investors?
Well, it's a tremendous opportunity to be able to acquire shares in the company at extremely cheap valuations relative to the historic valuations of the company. For example, when I first took over Callinex, it was in terms of being CEO of the company, it was in mid-2014, and at that time, the company had a dwindling treasury, far less than $1 million in the treasury. had a much higher burn rate than we do have today, and we only had an exploration portfolio that was in flin-flon. So since that time, we've been able to use our share price as a currency and make accretive acquisitions by acquiring the Nash Creek and Superjack projects in New Brunswick, as well as the Point Leamington project in Buckins, and continue to grow the portfolio. And at one point, for example, when we had that one big discovery hole in flin-flon in 2016, our valuation got as high as $60 million, roughly Canadian. And then last year, when we had published our maiden PEA at Nash Creek at higher zinc prices, the company was valued around 40 million Canadian at that time. And since that time, the global trade wars, the pullback in zinc prices, you really had investor sentiment dry up and turn extremely negative as a whole. I mean, if you look at Trevally, who's a miner out in Bathurst, their share prices, performed not so great as well. So we're in line with our peer groups to that extent, but it's a tremendous opportunity to build a position ahead of drilling where we can unlock value through the drill bit and make a big discovery that can have a big potential for our shareholders in the communities that which we're exploring within. So, for myself, for example, at the start of this year, I own roughly 50,000 shares, and I use it as an opportunity to build my position. I think I'm roughly closer to 425,000 shares today. I know my family collectively owns over 1 million shares, and the company structure right now is very, very tight. We've got just over 10.5 million shares. About 55% of that float's tightly held by management. Resource Capital Funds is a long-term shareholder of us that owns almost just under 10%. So again, we've got a tight capital structure, treasury in the bank, and an opportunity to make some world-class discoveries and some camps that are in immediate need of new discoveries to be made to feed those processing facilities. And so, while it has been a difficult market over the 12 months, it's created a tremendous buying opportunity. I look at it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for myself, which is why I've been so aggressive in terms of acquiring shares in the open market myself. And I do believe in the future of this company, and I think it's a great time to look at it, because you're looking at a company with roughly a $3 million enterprise value today. And I know that with any kind of success with the drill bit in flin-flon or in Bathurst, it's going to have a big upside for equity investors.
Yeah, and with an uncertain future and within the monetary system and the markets, precious metals, different kinds of metals, base metals, that's important to a lot of people. A lot of people are looking for a way out of the potential recession that he mentioned earlier. I mean, it's something that's on the horizon for a lot of people, and people are concerned about it. So they look to a lot of these things. Historically, it's paid off pretty well for a lot of people. I have to ask, finishing it off, before we get into all the details of how people can find more information, I have to ask, what is your major pitch to the people watching on why they should get involved in Callinex?
Well, we're coming with a $6 million market cap roughly, and just under 2.9 million in the treasury. We are backstopped by a PEA stage asset in Nash Creek and Superjack in New Brunswick. That's in close proximity infrastructure. We've identified almost 20 drill-ready targets that we'll be testing here in the not-too-distant future. We've got a strategic land package in flin-flon, Manitoba, where there's immediate need for new ore, and we're generating targets that have potential to save that town and have a big impact on that community and create a lot of wealth for the shareholder base as well. And then we also have Point Leamington, which is a zinc gold resource. It's a historic resource at this time where we're going to look to update, but historically you're looking at almost nearly 500,000 ounces of gold there. All this with a company that's got just over $3 million enterprise value, with numerous catalysts, which is through drilling, to create even more value that's inherently underpinned in the company that hasn't been discovered just yet.
Well, where can people find more information on Callinex and get involved? What's the ticker?
The ticker is CNX in Canada, and then on the OTC in the United States, it's CLLXF. And then you can also get information on our website at callinex.ca. That's CALLINEX.ca. Or more than welcome to give us a call at our office at any time, and we'd be happy to discuss, what we're up to in more detail.
Well, we're always very interested in hearing from people like yourself. So we really appreciate you joining us today, and we hope to join or talk with you again soon.
I really appreciate you having me, and look forward to speaking again in the future.
Like what you see here at Wham, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a Patreon. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on float.app. That's flote.app. At Josh Sigurdson, as well as at Wham, W-A-M. Float.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Float and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Mines, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best Liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are 2 major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WHAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Thank you.